All right,
So,
now take us to topic 2.
Take us somewhere that's
Alright,
not Final
well-
Fantasy in Las Vegas.
I've been playing a lot of video games lately. I think I put away almost 5 in the last 2 weeks.
You had a lot of time off
Whoa.
work.
Holy crap.
And I'm not going to talk about any of that stuff.
Mm-hmm. That sounds like a good.
Um,
That's a great way to intro. I like it. Sell me more.
But I want to know about the games you beat, Mao. No.
No.
Last Sunday, I went with some friends to see the latest Fantastic Beasts movie. And that is what my topic is on.
Tell us about this movie.
Tell us about it.
Did
You know.
you guys see the first one?
Yes,
I've not seen any Harry Potter movies
Oh,
or
wow.
anything in that universe, nor read any of those books.
How?
Okay, then.
No, how? I gotta know. Stop. Hold on a second.
Because I'm
That's
the most
not physically
interesting
possible.
nerd in the world. I don't read Harry
Oz.
Potter. Harry Potter reads me.
Oh my god. Don't turn this into Chuck Norris jokes, all right? We're gonna meme ourselves out of existence.
Now I'm the most interesting nerd in the world.
How did you evade this? I can't imagine.
I've never watched any of them.
You didn't even read a book.
No, if I'm going to get into it, it's going to be through the books and not the movies.
Huh.
But it's hard for me to find time to read books.
I'm just surprised. That was huge. That quite literally swept the nation.
It did.
I mean, the world, practically.
Yeah, pretty
More
much.
than just the nation.
You know what? I was busy playing Final Fantasy X when those books came out. All right, so just simmer down.
So was
I was gonna say Mao definitely was playing Final Fantasy X. He's never really stopped.
But I mean, as much as I love talking about me, Mao's topic isn't about me. So
All right. It's Fantastic Beasts and the Crimes of Grindelwald, which came out November 17th in the U.S. It was written by J.K. Rowling and directed by David Yates. And there were some issues. I have some issues
Really?
with this movie.
Do you now?
Yes.
Please tell us, oh wonderful Mao, what issues do you bring to the table this day?
Yeah. So the movie takes place a little after the first one. After Grindelwald had been captured and he escapes, and Dumbledore is in this one and asks Newt to help him deal with something. So light spoilers, I guess. I don't know. It's hard. The first thing I can't really talk about without is that Credence from the first movie, who had died, is now not dead.
What?
Yeah, he's actually still alive and is now the main focus of the movie
he
again.
was just joking.
Wait. What?
Yeah, now he's in France for some reason.
What? All right, no, keep going.
I mean, so that's not entirely out of left field because they did show
Yeah.
some black mist going away in the end, or which is what it looked like he had turned into and stuff. Because he's an Obscura, which is a magical creature thing.
Yes.
Anywho, I think the biggest problem with this movie is the writing. Writing screenplays is not the same as writing a book. And
yeah, it's a very different beat,
so yeah, they had J.K. Rowling write the screenplay for this.
Did she write the screenplay for the one before it as well?
Don't think so. Let's see.
Yeah, because I never looked it up, but
it says actually it was, or
Really?
it shows as a written, but oh yes, her screenwriting debut.
Okay, there you go.
But this one was just worse, has way worse writing. So I don't know. Maybe she's running out of ideas because there's going to be 5 of these movies.
And holy shit, seriously?
The biggest, I think I saw this in a lot of places, is a lot of people felt like this was a filler episode.
Ooh, that's not a good sign.
Yeah, I don't like. she probably should have written these as books, and then someone else could have adapted the screenplay. But that obviously would have taken too much time because writing books is a long process, and they wanted these movies now because it's quicker. But I don't know. Someone needed to adapt her whatever story, even if they needed to adapt her screenplay into a screenplay, or something. There's just because there's way too much going on, like way too much, like too many too many people, too many just useless details that like you would put in a book, but when it's a 2-hour movie, it just ends up being very cluttered. There's a lot of stuff that doesn't need to be in this movie. They had 2 characters that were basically just references to the original Harry Potter books that don't really end up adding anything to the story. Which actually a lot of the characters
Wow.
could have been just dropped, and ultimately tightened up the story. Yeah. So the primary protagonist is Newt Scamander, and then you have your primary antagonist Grindelwald, who they don't feel like they're in the same movie. Like they're off doing their own things practically. And they're connected by this little thread that is Credence, and it's not enough, like, because his character is pretty bad. And because they I don't know, they dropped any sort of characterization he had in the first movie and gave him a new role or thing to focus on, and it just doesn't feel right. And it tries to follow too many different people and from their perspective at times, like just a lot of characters feel superfluous. Just could have been tightened up to be and make a better story.
See, it sounds like you're naming off a lot of things though that are really crucial to any story though, because I mean, if you've got people if nothing ever feels like it's really connecting, it never feels like they're doing their own thing. Characters coming in that have no reason to be there, which means you spent time on individuals that don't have any impact. That's huge in movies. You've got so much running time. This isn't a book where you can just keep writing to fill out stuff later on or to go back and edit it before you publish it. This is a movie. You're going to put it at a certain time frame that you got to work in. If you're burning time on things that shouldn't be there, or you're not spending time on explaining like how these things are connected or how things are going along, that sounds like it's pretty bad.
Yeah, as much as I love Newt, and I would just prefer to have him doing having adventures like with the Fantastic Beasts that are part of the story or the title. I think this movie is made worse by the fact that the first one exists. Like, I don't think Newt has a place in these movies.
Wow.
At least now the story that they're telling with Grindelwald and that whole story and him and Dumbledore. Like, I don't think Newt needs to be there.
Does he just not have like an impact on things that are going on, or is it just
like it just feels like he's trying to do his own thing? Like he doesn't want to be there, and he doesn't need to be there. Like he just should and they just like throw in creatures to make him relevant. Like these movies definitely have more magical creatures than the original books, and a lot of them feel like they're just there so that Newt has some relevance. Because that's his thing, is that he likes magic creatures. Yeah, there's also there's a lot of exposition that doesn't really lead up to anything. Ultimately, it also might just be laying a lot of groundwork for the next one, but it just ends up falling flat, I think.
I mean, you can have sequels though that don't do that. You can have sequels that are really good, still lay groundwork, and still set up.
It might just be like they need to stretch.
I think that's it sounds like it's almost kind of like the same thing that happened, at least in regards to the storyline. There's other issues with it, but like within episode 8 for Star Wars, where there's
lots
a lot
of side stories.
Yeah, lots of side stories, lots of things just jumping off into different directions and whatnot, and possibly laying groundwork that we're unaware of for the future. But ultimately, like things don't really kind of translate, or they cut things off that had no points, and kind of just, I don't know. It sounds like what you're describing is just a very all over the place and not really sure where it wants to be kind of movie.
Uh, I don't think it's quite like. I think it's worse than that. Like they just
Ooh.
like you could these. It's like they just took two different storylines and mashed them together. That like they didn't really need to connect at all. Like you could have had Newt doing his own thing, be a movie, and then have a whole separate movie of like Grindelwald and his stuff.
Hmm.
Also, the more you know about Harry Potter lore, annoying this movie gets. Um, there's the biggest continuity error is that there's a flashback that, and then Professor McGonagall is mentioned, and that flashback takes place nearly 30 years before she would have been born.
Oh.
But she's a teacher at Hogwarts, so that's bad. And I don't know, the whole timeline it takes place in, which is the 1920s, or the 1927 is the date of this movie, or time in the year of this movie takes place in. And I don't feel like it needs to take place during this period of time. Like I think they just had it at this time period to tie in Newt, because uh there's still 17 years until Dumbledore and Grindelwald duel for the only time. Like the first and the only time they see each other after they were younger, which is before this movie takes place, is in 1945. So so we still have 18 years actually until they duel, which is the only other time they see each other. And I assume that's going to be like the climactic ending to the last movie, but that's still a lot of time to cover,
Yeah,
to jump 17 years in the next three movies.
that's a lot. That's a lot of time you're gonna have to fill in.
Yeah. Like this could have been a much simpler trilogy that left out Newt's character and told the story that they want to tell between Dumbledore and Grindelwald.
It's a little bit weird.
Yeah. I don't know. So as for what I did like about the movie was I think all the acting is really well done. And I think all the actors and whatnot did a great job, except maybe Credence. But I don't even think it's Ezra Miller's fault. I think it's just more of, I don't think any actor would have made that character work. And I didn't think I'd like Johnny Depp as much as I ended up liking him.
So you were pleasantly surprised by him.
Yeah, like outside of, again, the writing, like when they had him kill or involved in killing a toddler just to show us that this is definitely a bad guy. It was just kind of like, some pointless evilness. Like the rest ended up being good, and I think they made a decent showing of how his villain is different from Voldemort. Whereas Voldemort would delight in his cruelty and ruled through force because he's basically the strongest wizard ever. Grindelwald was cold and would dealing with his problems, and not he didn't look like he was enjoying it. It's more just like he had to do it, and because he's all about his greater good, and he has a more of like the silver tongue and like charming people, winning them over to his side, and he ends up just basically being Wizard Hitler.
Of course he is.
I mean, that is what he is. So
yeah. So yeah, I mean, I liked the that. I mean, Jude Law was great as young Dumbledore, and I still love Newt, and they Zoe Kravitz as Lita Lestrange, who I think was one of the best, or the well done, one of the best characters of new characters they had in the movie, but just kind of with the writing again, like the story they were telling, it just kind of wasted it in the end. There was some really good visuals, very spectacle. Other like David Yates though is the director, and I don't know if he should probably not have been the director on these two. Like he has a very dark color palette. He's done all the Harry Potter movies since Goblet of Fire, and
yeah,
I think he should have been left out of this movie series. But other than that, like all the beasts look cool. Um, cute for the ones that were supposed to be cute. Like I think they did the beasts well, even if they don't really need to be in the story. Yeah. So ultimately, I think there were two separate stories that they just smashed together. There weren't enough Fantastic Beasts or Crimes of Grindelwald. Grindelwald. They should have picked one to focus on because, like Grindelwald, just like besides escaping and killing a few people, he doesn't really do any crimes. So I don't know why it's titled "The Crimes of Grindelwald."
He has probably he's setting up for all of his crimes. He's gonna perform in the next movie, The
Yeah,
Crimes
I
of
guess.
Grindelwald 2, Electric Boogaloo.
The serial crimes of Grindelwald.
The serial crimes.
Yeah.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, Rotten Tomato unfortunately gives it a well, I guess unfortunately, depending on how you look at it.
Oh yeah, it was around the
tomato meter.
50% I think earlier. When I looked.
Yeah, it's at 40 now, and only 65% of the audience liked it with an average rating of 3.6, and that is out of nearly 10,000 ratings.
Like it's like fine, but it's definitely the worst of any Harry Potter movie.
I mean, if you're gonna have a bad Harry Potter movie, then it's gonna happen. Like, no, you can't forever go on a perfect track record. There's just no such thing. At least not nowadays, anyway. Uh, so, uh, so I mean, if this is the one it's got to be, then it's got to be the one it's got to be. But thank God it's
I
not
think
like an ending movie or something to a whole
Right.
series. That would have been way worse.
I think it just needs tighter writing, honestly.
Hopefully it doesn't turn into a situation like not to bring up Star Wars again, but here I go. Like on the prequels where George for better or for worse.
I've seen a lot of comparisons to she's basically going Lucas at this point.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was just about to say. Point is like hopefully some people kind of set up and go like that may not be the best idea, and not back away just because she is the writer and she knows his world so well.
Honestly, her world building has never been amazing. Like there's like people really love the world, but once you get outside of the halls of the classroom, like the story starts to break down a lot. Like when you start getting into the actual like how the world should be.
From my perspective as a non-Harry Potter knowledge person, it seems like people care more about the characters than the world.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a lot of people like, a lot of the fans like want to go to Hogwarts. But like when you start thinking about like the whole money system and then like the number of wizards in the world and stuff, there's just a lot of problems that would actually arise if you were to make this into a real world.
Yeah, there's also the issue is that there's there's inconsistencies with like understanding being beyond and yet below. Like there's a big thing where like the wizards have almost no practical knowledge of like regular humans technology, but they're so which they shouldn't have. They're so outnumbered and outclassed apparently from the numerics that they should be very good at understanding regular stuff, because otherwise how do they fit into a neighborhood when like you're the only wizard in that neighborhood and there's like 10 people around you that aren't. I think they mentioned in a fact like there's generally like wizarding neighborhoods that are just like all wizards and whatnot, but I mean there's a point where like even if you have a whole neighborhood, there's still like governments and stuff that are going to be around those areas. I don't know. They're just very disconnected from a world that they're very clearly a part of.
At some point, they all go from wearing three-piece suits to robes because they're in like no robes in this movie, despite like in the 90s that Harry Potter takes place in, like all older wizards like are in robes and stuff, but in these movies they're like wearing the clothes that normal people are wearing, which in the 20s is like suits and stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. It's
weird.
I think if like as you put it, best Mao, once you start getting into the world itself, things start to break down. But if you stay contained into the small world that is Hogwarts,
or something like that.
Yeah,
I mean, there are other schools they could be doing.
They could also. It's kind of almost the motto of like saying less is more.
Yeah.
Don't talk about the world.
There was way too much telling and not enough showing, I think, for this story.
I think in the whole series in general, is just the less you start saying about the world itself and just focus on the events of the characters that are in with a specific area, you're fine and golden. You don't have to explain a lot because there's nothing to explain. I don't have to answer it. Who knows? Maybe it works that way. Maybe it doesn't. I'm out. You just kind of back away from your you back away from the desk. Can't answer questions. Sorry, just not taking questions today. So, it's kind of a shame that it's kind of the outcome that it has. Because I kind of
I mean,
I was
did-
on the line of seeing this, but having seen this
Yeah.
now and hearing what you have to say about it, I'm probably just
Like
gonna,
some people are going to be happy enough that it is a Harry Potter and it does look pretty, and like that'll be enough for some people. Like they did make more than breaking even. They're like, we need to make 400 million to break even, and I think so. Like Wikipedia had it at like 400, nearly 450 million, I think, made. So like they made their money back.
which is, I mean, technically, which is all you need. If you make your money back, you can make another.
Yeah.
But will they? Will they do
Well, I doubt they won't. It's a
Yeah, I'm
series.
sure
The series, it's gonna make money.
it?
There's no doubt. If it's
Such a
successful
huge
in the theaters,
franchise.
it's so huge. If it's this successful, even on this low of a rating and this flawed, so to speak, and it's still making the money back, then some, there's no doubt in my mind that they're going to continue pushing along because, hey, you know what? It's a bump in the road. Whatever. We'll get it on the next run.
When like
Which I hope they
33%
do.
when
Yeah.
33% of the people in my communications department were writing their big giant presentations on Harry Potter stuff,
Yeah, right.
I was
there you
like,
go.
okay, the oversaturation is real.
There you go.
All right, you got anything else, Mel?
No, that's it.
All right, bye, everybody.
Crimes-
No,
It's just like I said, we're out. Later.
let's get out of here. No, okay.